Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into another exciting episode of Tech Mahindra's Simplicity series. My name is Sandeep Fadke, and I'm part of Tech Mahindra's European business serving telcos for the last 25 years. A year ago at MWC Barcelona, we launched an initiative called Welcome to Simplicity and are pleased that the ethos of simplicity has resonated very well with our clients. As a result, we have had the honor of speaking to some of the world's leading simplifiers and disruptors and learning from their experiences. In our previous Simplicity series episode, which we did late last year with Jeff McInfresh, COO from AT&T, we learned how AT&T is transforming into a simpler and more focused organization. I welcome you to another episode with one of our most valued clients and partner, BT. Tech Mahindra traces its origin and history with this iconic telecoms company. BT, an industry bellwether, has led the telecom world with its disruptive innovations and shaped the course of connectivity since its inception 176 years ago. Today, BT continues to transform itself and the industry by enabling and building the future of a digitally connected world. We are joined today by one of our industry's most passionate disruptors, leaders, and champions, Harmeen Mehta, BT's Chief Digital and Innovation Officer. Harmeen has led and built some of the most disruptive solutions that have created unprecedented impact and value for millions of consumers of connectivity across the world. She genuinely embodies customer obsession and today is leading BT's ambitious journey of transforming from a telco to a techo. Joining Harmeen is Tech Mahindra's Manish Vyas, President for Communications, Media and Entertainment Industry Business, who for the last 25 years has passionately worked at solving the problem of building simpler solutions for clients across a wide range of industries. We hope to learn from Harmeen and Manish today how they think simplification is paramount in delivering exceptional customer experience and their best practices in life and in business. So, without further ado, I present to you Manish Vyas and Harmeen Mehta, disruptor par excellence, simplifier in chief, and a true trailblazer.
Thank you, Sandeep. You are absolutely right. I am indeed today with a true trailblazer, a true simplifier in chief. Harmeen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Pleasure.
so much for doing this.
Pleasure to be here.
Talking about simplicity, I know why my needs are for keeping things simple. And about 18 months ago, when a very eminent industry observer came to us and said, "Hey, you are a leader in this industry in telecom. The reason you are leaders is because you've tried keeping things simple. But the reason why you will continue to remain a leader is if you try and make things even more simpler." That became a clarion call for us, and we said, okay, how about Tech Mahindra's, the telecom business, builds a brand theme around simplification and simplicity. I think it's very clear that the world of technology, while has made the world look so beautiful in terms of how we work, live, and play, but sadly enough has also made things very complicated. And we've always believed that the telcos, BT in particular, is at the center stage of this transformation that is going on for some time and will continue to go on. The Uber connectivity of the world, I think, is not something that will ever slow down. We truly believe in that. So as we dive deeper into the concept of simplicity, I just want to bring you in and tell us, what does this mean for you personally? What is the roots for you to start thinking the way you think? Because your candor, your straight-shootedness, I think, is legendary. And then, of course, BT's concept of simplicity is equally so powerful. But tell us more about this if you can.
I'll start by saying what you asked first, which is what does, simplicity mean to me and why it's important. I think for me, it's as an individual, I've always been not only straightforward, but I really struggle to read between lines. I'm very apolitical. So unless you come and tell me exactly what you mean, I'll always take you on face value. that has always driven, me when I speak, when I talk to anybody. If I'm clear about something in my mind, it comes out very clearly in my words as well. And that is an inherent need that as a professional I have always felt, and hence I think that's what drives a lot of kind of my strive for simplicity, and what internally we actually call a program, which is one of our largest transformation programs, called Simplify.
Yep.
The reason for that, the second reason for that, is also because if you are clear and concise, it doesn't leave room for neither misinterpretation nor any kind of ambiguity, or and it just, even if there are disagreements, it's all out there and you can resolve them and move forward from there. And I really feel that every time we are not clear, or we want to say something and mean different, is where the sentences become complex.
Yep.
The expression becomes complex, and that's where complexity starts. And in organizations, that is almost like it's a living organism that takes a form of its own, and that's what turns companies to be either political or ultra complex to work with, and all of that translates into our processes, into our products, and ultimately into our systems. The lack of simplicity is what drives all of this complexity, and because it's a living organism, it evolves on its own, it feeds on its own, it's a parasite that grows on its own.
Yep.
And it becomes very difficult to curtail. And because a lot of that has happened in large organizations, which is why the sad part of it is we need to run programs like Simplify or Simplicity to almost force us to go back to square one and back to the drawing board and said, if we were to start again, what would we do differently?
Wow, fantastic. Phenomenal. That clarity that you just defined for where you come from, and of course where large organizations, particularly like BT, I think we are 176-year-old. Obviously these complexities do come in, and it just tells me one thing, and I'm very pleased about it, that we adopted simplicity as our theme. At least we must say that we are aligned on this. On that note, maybe dive into something that you've always advocated.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you saying once, and I think I truly believe in that, software is business now.
Yeah.
It's at the heart of every little enterprise and big enterprise. And software is all about how you curate, you architect, you write, and you make it work to an ultimate object, which is to modernize, modernize the enterprise. On the Tech Mahindra side, while we invested $1 billion over the last 2-3 years in acquiring companies, it's just not good enough, we realized. We got to do something with it. It's very clear that investing in platforms, for example, you remember from your time in India, Comviva was a company that was thriving on innovation. We slowed down. We are now building a Comviva 2.0 model to try and drive a lot more intensity.
My previous organization actually built the product and handed over to you guys.
And you handed over to us, exactly. And we're so proud of that acquisition. And now we are trying to invest and creating a Comviva 2.0. But BT, and you particularly, have been the torch bearer of this whole platformization and the digital tsunami to try and drive a greater impetus to convert what you call telco as a techo. Yeah. Tell us more about that. How do you drive, and not just from a simplification standpoint, but from the speed and the velocity of this change? How do you visualize this change, and how do you visualize the steps that you need to take to drive this modernization effort at BT?
I think modernization for us is actually, it's a route to survival, because the world has moved a lot on, and we still have a lot of legacy that we've underinvested in the last few years. So we need to catch up. The good part of that is that we've probably missed one wave of transformation in the middle when most companies and most telcos went through that. So we're coming at the, either at the beginning of the second wave or at the end of the first wave, whichever way you want to look at it, which puts that as a big advantage, because now when we modernize, we have a very unique opportunity of leapfrogging. The downside is that we have a lot more complexity to clean up, so there are a lot of hurdles in the way. But I think our approach is very simply simplify. So if you've simplified a process, go back and simplify it a bit more. And once you've done it for the second time, go back and simplify it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And hopefully the third time you'll get it.
Right.
It's not about just simplifying. You'll get it at the simplest possible, and it's finding the route in order to do that. The same for the product portfolio. Same for platforms as we build them. We want to try different things, and we are not. We want to build a culture which doesn't have that fear of failure. Saying when you try something new, there's no guarantee it'll succeed. But you try it in a way that if you feel it's not working, you pivot very quickly and you try something again. That can only happen if you are fast-paced. We're not known to be a fast-paced organization, but we're trying to inject digital steroids as far as possible to get us and the businesses is as far there as well. It is really hard. I mean, transformations, and we've built careers out of this, but they are hard by very nature because they're not just transformation of systems. They're transformation of as much of culture and people and processes. And, we find in larger the organization and the more heritage a company has, those get very intertwined. People they don't only define the process, but they also stand in the way of changing the process. And it's all of that thinking that you have to unwind, and that becomes a culture. So you have to unwind the culture in order to actually change the process. So it's a bigger transformation than that.
I think what you said is that simplicity ultimately is all about serving the customers.
Yes.
They have to come back and tell us that, you spoke about industry and as a big force and the big voice in the industry. In the first episode of this series, we had interviewed Jeff McElfresh at AT&T. Mm-hmm. He had also said exactly the same thing. He said, I can keep simplifying all day.
Yeah.
But if a customer doesn't call me up and says, hey, this makes sense, right? It is not. What would you elaborate on that from a customer context standpoint?
I think when you're simplifying, you have to identify more with the customer needs than the customer requirements or asking the requirements. So it's getting sharper at identifying those customer needs and then building your entire simplification journey to address that customer need. If you do that, the customers will naturally gravitate towards it because you've identified a true need. Then the customers will navigate to it, and there's nothing more satisfying in life in actually delivering on a customer need. I mean, at the end of the day, we work very hard, we do many things, we spend lots of money, but that's a very small, intangible thing that actually we all work for.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. Wow, it's been absolutely fun so far. I think let's then change the gears. Technology always comes in waves.
Yeah.
Sometimes the waves are big tsunamis, no doubt. But is generative AI suddenly coming of age? You've always been a massive, passionate advocate and a proponent of AI and its potential. It's very clear, everything that you said, that an intelligent enterprise is the true objective for anybody. It should be. We clearly are seeing some breakthroughs now. How do you personally see the evolution of AI and the important questions, lessons, imperatives, considerations that you would want to bring in thinking about AI from not just a BT context?
I'm a child of the AI winter, so I've been passionate about this topic since I was a young student, and devoted a large part of my academic career actually on AI. So it's a topic I feel very passionately about. But the true nature of AI is really about bringing different elements of intelligence into different aspects of your personal and professional lives and helping you do the same things in a very different way. Innovation is not just about coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
Innovation is a lot about coming up with new ways of doing the same thing. Yeah. So that's where I think AI plays a very, very big part and can play a big part. And this is what evolution is about. And AI is it's taken a bit longer because I think it is probably one of the more complex aspects of technology as well. I think the potential is just, as long as human race exists, the potential is just going to keep growing and growing. We've just got to give it the space, experiment with it, allow it to fail, not judge it for failures, when something wrong goes on stage, and the tweets are all more about that than the potential of what it could have done. I think we've got to just be a little less judgmental about it and far more experimentative, and actually help fume it. If it becomes really the most open, the way we talk about open source, it becomes the most open-minded thing that everybody in humanity is contributing to, I think it's going to take a very
massive,
different form.
massive.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I was talking
It's
to
very exciting. Isn't it?
very, very exciting. I was talking to a mentor of mine who left as a CEO of a company 22 years ago and retired and started advising. And he the other day called up and said, I think the world of compute is almost as if it has just begun. It is that exciting now. The future is just so big and so bright and so brilliant. So thank you for that. That brings us to that topic that you and I have discussed many times, and that is about the talent. To do things, to your point, robots are not going to become AI experts. AI experts will make robots. New age technologies will need people who will curate, will write software, use software to make things even more intelligent. Now, one thing that happened during the pandemic is we started seeing worldwide challenge. I consider that the pandemic really indeed induced a worldwide endemic from a talent standpoint. It can go slow, it can go, the virality of that, or the potency of that talent endemic can be low sometimes, can be big sometimes. Right now, maybe it is low, but we don't believe, particularly in high tech and digital stuff, things like AI, things like anything new. I think this is going to be a bit of a challenge for the industry for time to come. All of us are looking to address it. Would love to get your perspective on it. At TechM, for example, we realize that there is another phenomena that is shaping up, and that is people, young people particularly, are just not interested in looking at what software they work on or what problems they solve. They also are looking at the purpose aspect. And we are now experiencing it every single day, right? I mean, people don't go to a certain fast food chain because that fast food chain was on record to say that they don't look at all human beings in the same equal fashion. People have solid voice now, and we just love it. I mean, as a father of 14 and 12-year-old, I think the future is just so brilliant. So at TechM, we decided that we'll work on things like, besides our learning and skilling and acquiring people from the right places and create new programs, we also started working on concepts like humans of TechM, where we celebrate life, celebrate efforts. We work on diversity and inclusivity, not because it is a good thing to say, but because we want to change the core of the company. Very difficult, but we are trying to work on that. We're looking to catch them young. So we have programs like Aimers, Achievers in Making, where we bring people very early on and say 6 months and another 6 months after 6 more months, just go back to the school-like environment. So very collegial, cadre-like program. Very early days of some of these programs for us, because we believe the next wave for TechM kind of a company is going to be all around the new skill development that we do. TechM Foundation, for example, works on programs like Josh, which is all about saying, connect at a purpose that you like. If you want to adopt a village, a set of people in the village, then go work on that. This is all about connecting people to say, remain motivated, keep your morale level so high that you are in a position to start solving problems even better. Give us your perspective, because you've been traveling around recently talking about talent. I've been following you up on your LinkedIn handle. I think you've really been speaking about diversity, talent, digital quotient, and all that. How important is this, and what are your recommendations to all of us?
I think the shortage of talent is our creation, and solving that shortage of talent will also be our creation. So, you and I and many like us, we've all chosen to be in this profession called technology.
Yep.
And it's a means to an end, and talent is also a means to an end. But talent is probably the most important or the influential means, because I actually think that a lot of organizations, and especially in the technology world, and a lot of the SIs, the ambitions, if you see what is important, it's more important for them to grow, have more people, have more work. Very rarely do you see organizations come back and say they want to be the best employer? I've never heard organizations come back to say we want to be the best shop for the best talent. So there, I think I always have very different views. I really believe in specialism. I believe in driving people to be the best version of themselves that they can, especially when it comes to their specialism. And actually, if you have one such specialist and you had 10 people who don't know anything about that, they would actually teach them the right way. I am more interested in changing this definition of skill and being skillful. So it's very different to have a skill and being very skillful at it. And I think it should be far more about how do we drive people and create a bit of hunger and curiosity and intrigue in people to want to continue to invest in themselves and grow themselves and experiment with new technologies. We don't do that because we want to employ people with the same kind of skills. When we are looking at putting people in roles, we look more at performance, less at potential. We look at more at this, what they know today than what they could learn tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's a pull and a push. We have to create environments which really allows people to want to really learn something new. And, we run a program with another organization here called Fast Futures. And I was just at their dinner and I hosted a lot of companies and brought them in to say, look, how we experimented with it and how you could do it. And it's actually about teaching digital skills to a community that society has given up on. And the talent that you see, because it is actually identifying potential and investing in potential and trying to create the skill that you find lacking in them today, but through identification of potential. And I met a few young people who have really benefited it during the COVID period, have got beautiful careers, and I felt really very satisfied and almost proud of seeing, how it can make a difference. We don't do that nowhere near enough. And then when we do it, we want more to have different diversity metrics is more important than diversity of thought. Because why diverse people work is because they think differently. They had different backgrounds. They had different upbringings. They have different religious beliefs, and and that leads to them having different opinions. And when they have different opinions, they look at the same problem from very different lenses.
Yeah.
And because they look at it very different lenses, they have a very different approach on how to solve that same problem. So you get a diversity of thought which you wouldn't have. And our tendency of driving diversity is driving cultural, geographical, ethnicity as diversity, but stopping when it comes to thought because we want everybody to think the same because this is our company's way. This is our way. Everybody will follow the same way. And the moment you do that, you've actually killed diversity, no matter how much diverse hiring you have done.
Wonderful thoughts, Harmeen. I think very profound. This session has the danger of almost becoming textbooky. People can learn take
I would
notes.
hate that one.
People can learn. But you're right about the diversity aspect. I have to, before we wrap up, on this talent aspect, maybe one quick response on this. I did say catch them young. And by then I meant when they come into the workforce, then start working on it. Do you also recommend and encourage maybe catching them young even before, when they are in the schools, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think rather than, I wouldn't say catch them young, I would say in schools, I just want to, if there's something that we know and we feel this is where we as a society need to move towards and we as an industry need to move towards, I think it's more about going to these schools and creating that awareness and, telling those young minds that, the world's your oyster truly.
Yeah.
And here are some things, amazing things that could happen if you did choose that path and make it easier and more attractive and almost infectious for them to come and join that same mission. But then learning more from them because, we have a UI UX lab downstairs and when I watch and sometimes the difference between having a user who has learned how to be digital and a youngster that walks in that was, that's the Generation Z that was born in that world, the appreciation You get a lot of appreciation from a person who has learned it because they've lived in a world where they've never seen it before. You show them something cool and they find it really cool. The other guy is saying, well, this could be 10 times cooler. So you get very different feedback. And we have to cater for both.
Yeah.
So I would say a lot of merit in going and making the youngsters more aware. So, aware them young. But at the same time, a lot of merit in taking people who are in different walks of life and making an opportunity for them to pivot.
Yeah.
And, you're as young as as you feel. So I would catch them young as well.
Unbelievable comment. So, digital steroid, diversity of thoughts. It's clearly about starting a process to think about how do we get them and show people a worldview that is so large and so wide, and the technology space is so big. Just to wrap up and get your final thoughts on this, Harmeen. And it's not just about us as Tech Mahindra, it's really the industry.
Yeah.
You are in the process of transforming, modernizing, helping simplify the BT organization. And you've always stated this, that it's not that you will solve all the problems all by yourself. You are expecting collaboration and partnership. If there were one or two or three things, and I won't put you on the spot, if it's just one, that's fine too, that you would give as an advice to people, anybody who wants to come and partner with BT to solve BT's problems, collaborate with BT, what would be your recommendations to people?
One is, really understand our need as a customer, and make sure that solutions you're proposing are in line with those needs, and really solving those problems rather than creating more problems. And the second is, I'm going to go back to where we started. We are on a mission to oversimplify ourselves. So, and actually, it's not just about simplifying the complexity we've got. It's about getting to the simplest output we possibly can, outcome that we possibly can. So, and that often, working with other large organizations, just the nature of working with partners is not simple enough.
Yeah.
So making that
Simpler.
Simpler and the simplest possible, making the solutions the simpler and the simplest possible. And that is something that, especially when it comes to SIs, doesn't come naturally. Because a simpler solution might mean lesser amount of work, and hence lesser revenue, but it might mean more margin, and we are driven more by our top lines than anything else. So I think if ever there was a time for organizations to think differently, it is probably at this moment.
Got it. Fantastic. So focus on the simplest outcomes and outputs for BT. That, I think, is the mantra.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. I appreciate this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.